We're going to take a look at Chapter 10, dealing with challenging or violent students. Now, I know this title sounds awfully scary, especially the violent student part, but keep in mind that this is really, really rare that you're going to have students to this level in your classroom. So, behavior excesses. This is where students do too much of a behavior, so things like noncompliance or aggression. And then you have what's called behavior deficits, where students are unable to adequately perform a behavior, something like self management, social, academic skills. Now, there's influences that are going to be in these students' lives that are oftentimes causing these instances in your classroom. And sometimes it might be physical or psychological challenges. Sometimes it's an unstable or challenging environment at home, and other times it's disruptive students. So other disruptive students, and so gangs usually fall under this category. So there are early signs of serious problems. So students, if they are changing in physical appearance, if you see changes in activity level or personality, achievement is a big one. Suddenly they're doing poorly. Health or physical abilities or their friend groups, their socialization starts to change. It's going to cue you in that something is going on here with the student. So while it's a rarity to have students to this degree, you still have to plan for it. Keep in mind what you're going to be doing. So you've got to think in advance what steps you're going to have to keep the student within acceptable limits in your classroom. And part of that's going to be establishing rules and procedures and consequences in your classroom and reinforcements within the classroom to reinforce the positive behaviors and then decrease those negative behaviors. You want to make a commitment to help the challenging student succeed. Don't just wash your hands and say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. Commit to helping them succeed. We are called to look out for the least of these. And these students, they are the least of these. We've got to help them be successful. You want to establish a plan to deal with each challenging student. Just because you've had one challenging student in the past does not mean what worked for that student is going to work with the next student that comes in. Each one has to be individual. You've got to keep great documentation and keep anecdotal records of things that you're hearing and seeing and noticing in the classroom with dates and times so that if necessary, you can submit that information as documentation as what's been going on in the classroom. You want to focus your attention on preventing the disturbing or violent behavior and make plans for how to respond if you see that behavior occur. One problem you might see in there is anger. And oftentimes people get angry when they feel frustrated or thwarted that they can't do what they want to do. And students can be taught ways to deal with anger and using problem solving strategies and behavior skills, such as teaching them better social skills, conflict resolution, and self management skills. So, in the classroom, what you can do is you can help them manage anger constructively. So, teaching them how to calm their own anger down and also how to deal with another person's anger. And there's a 10-step process that you can use to deal with situations before students do something hurtful to themselves or others. And step one is just simply stop and calm down. Just take a breather, step away, and then think about and identify what is the actual problem. And then what is the goal? What do I want to see happen? And then think of as many solutions to that goal as you possibly can. And then all the things that could happen next if you implement those. And then you want to choose the best solution from that list. But always have a backup plan in case the first one doesn't work. Plan your solution, make a final check, carry out your solution, and then evaluate how did this work. One of the things you need to do is helping students develop new behavioral skills, and that means helping them find alternatives to disruption and violence. And they can be taught new behavioral skills to help them effectively function in the classroom. And some programs are going to include social skills, conflict resolution, self management, and reducing school violence through conflict resolution. And oftentimes, it's going to be working in collaboration with the counseling department or a school psychologist who is on staff. So, when you're responding to this type of behavior, you need to assess the situation. And then you need to meet with the student afterwards and then consult others. How would you have handled this? How should I handle it in the future? This is what actually transpired. And provide positive support. The student, trust me, they know when they screw up, they know it. How are you going to help them? Let them know that you want to help them, because your goal is decreasing this inappropriate behavior. So this could be preparing a behavioral contract of what you expect to see in the classroom. And you have to know when to involve others. If you feel you are unsafe, involve others. If you feel your students are unsafe, involve others. And be ready to take urgent action. If necessary, remove a student immediately from the room. And then you've got to think about when you need to seek outside help. And that's going to be your principal or assistant principal, counselors and psychologists, problem solving teams, sometimes the families, and district and community agencies. Because our whole goal, we want to see all the children succeed, but we do not want to put you or other students in your class in jeopardy or at risk.